back online. May I have a motion to return to public session, please?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now back in public session. We have no unfinished business to attend to, so we'll proceed to approval of minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of February 22nd, 2022, and the executive session minutes of February 22nd, 2022. May I have a motion to accept those?
Motion.
Second.
Second, any discussion on those minutes? Any corrections? Any? Okay, if none, I have roll call on the minutes.
All right. Mr. Conklin?
Yes.
Mr. Carrasco?
Yes.
Miss Ireland?
Yes.
Miss Schuman?
Yes.
Miss Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn.
Yes. That brings us to our first public comments session of the evening on agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we will open for public comments. At this time, each speaker should state his or her name and address. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, which will be timed by myself. We will limit this section to no longer than 45 minutes. Please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. And we have still 2 methods for which the public may address us on agenda items only, either in person here at the podium or virtually on our online platform. I believe on the online platform you have to do your virtual hand raise and you'll be recognized, and we'll bring your comments up on the screen or through the speaker system here. Anyone in person that would like to address us on agenda items?
This is on what we're speaking about, or can I say?
So this is for anything that is on the agenda and is an action item for the evening. So
There will be another public comment section later on in the evening for any open
I'm not
comment.
sure if this is on the agenda.
And it's difficult for us to know if it's on the agenda until you start to speak, and we can tell if it's on the agenda. So I may end up shutting something down, so if it is something you're not sure about, very likely it's best for the second session.
Okay.
I don't believe there's anybody else here in person. Is there anyone online who would like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion to close public comments.
Motion.
second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to closing for public comments? Okay, that brings us to our presentations for the evening. First presentation, Ms. Ariana Kojikaro, Speaker of the House, will update the board on the activities of the Student Council. Welcome.
Thank you. This is on. Sorry.
You can adjust it if you. There you go.
Okay. Student Council is continuing their character development initiative. This month, March, is themed Honesty and Fairness. I am the Executive Student Council member in charge of this month, and I will be leading a group in creating posters and a presentation to eventually show the student body. And we are currently trying to plan a prep rally for next month, the later half, perhaps. That's it.
Okay, excellent, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next presentation on the agenda is the HPEA, Ms. Carla Mancuso, HPEA President. Welcome, Ms. Mancuso.
Oh, yeah. No worries, I just got x-rays today. Anyway, we would like to thank the board for asserting our contract, and as far as we're waiting for our retro, but it's great, everybody's happy that everything's coming, what would you say, fruition, you know, it's a small process, and everybody's like, oh my God, how long does this have to take? Well, it's process, and everybody has to follow process, and we follow process, so we're very happy with that. And we'd like to have a shout out to Mr. Chalamet for thanking for our social that we went out last Wednesday. We had several teachers there, and we're, you know, camaraderie of we're all back together again, and it's nice. We have no masks on, and everybody's, you know, like, oh my God, I didn't know you look like that. And the kids are happy, and we're doing well. Looking forward to what's going on. Can you believe we're 2/3 of the year is gone? April 1st, I stand to be corrected, Mr. Chalamy, are we done with the third marking period?
That's correct.
Oh, my God, you know, we're done for that, and commending, Mr. Campbell for getting through the testing.
We did.
Oh, my gosh. And, I hate to say I do a lot of roles, and I'm on the njaa.org committee, and, we're addressing, always asking the state so much testing, and who has to pass, and the exemptions. They're not exempting a lot of, situations right now, and that's just incredible. We come out of a pandemic, our special education kids, and they're not gonna exempt, are you kidding me? So, it's a struggle, and, I'm very proud to be here, and I'm proud to work with the team that we have, and we'll get through it. And that's my update, and thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Next presentation we have is the principal's report and athletics report, Mr. John Tellamy.
Good evening, everybody. How are we doing?
Good evening.
Doing well. Justice back up. Thank you, Ariana and Ms. Mancuso. Just a couple updates that we have for some ongoing things. One is March 7th was the change and transition, right? Transition back to some sense of normalcy to be able to see everybody's faces, as Ms. Mancuso said. I just wanted to report on the student side of things as we look at these things and we say, what's it going to look like for us as staff, for us as students? And I can tell you that it's been nothing but golden for our students. They have handled it extremely well, very mature. We always say that masks are optional for each individual and their own individual choice. We respect that, and that's the way that it is, and have had no issues at all regarding that. So that just goes again a testament to the student body, because that can go both ways in terms of the aspect of it. As you know, the world is somewhat divided on things, and there's a lot of divide created by that. I just want to report on that. A little bit of athletic in the beginning, Mr. Dunn, if that's okay, and kind of combine all together as we're in between seasons right now. But we had some wrestling championships, as you are aware of. We had the opportunity to, and I spoke about last time already with Noelle Gaffney as our first High Point champion, but also first county female wrestling champion. Pretty proud of that. And we also had Mr. Brian Saldana, who we probably heard before, and he went on to wrestle and capture his third state title. And Mr. Dexter and I were down there, and I just wanted to report to the board on a couple of things. One is you have a lot to be proud of. As you sit there and watch, and there's an arena filled with 3,000 people, and all those things that occur. You know, our individual wrestlers, how they handle themselves, and our individual coaches, how they handle themselves, because that's not the case in every capacity. You sit there and you watch a lot of wrestling goes on and happens, and there's a lot of things that you see because everything's wide open in an arena. And I just wanted you to hear that our individual athletes and coaches handle themselves so professionally. So proud of our athletes and how they speak so eloquently in the heat of the battle, coming off the mat. Brian did an article and an interview right after he came off the mat, and it's a pretty hard place to be when you just, you know, pretty much manhandled the individual that you wrestled. He didn't get his 100 pin, but got his third state champion. And he spoke as if he was, you know, a 40-year-old man with life experience. But it's about how he's raised, but it's also what he's part of in his community. It's also about his coaches, because his coaches are right there with him along the way to the ups and downs. So I just want to report on that. There's a lot of great things to celebrate, and that's just one of them, of who they are and the testament that they are as individuals. Another thing that we had recently, our SAVE students, which are very, very active throughout this time period, they had an actual virtual pep rally last week here in the Media Center, because the Sandy Hook Promise, you've probably heard of that organization before, with the tragedy that took place in Sandy Hook. They have created a national coalition, and the week that's coming up in March, and we're going to honor and recognize it next week, is called the Say Something Week. And our SAVE students, led by our SAVE peer leaders and our SAVE steering committee, are leading that. We're going to start that next week, called the Say Something Week, and it talks about a trusted adult, right? Who's that trusted adult in your life? Who do you speak to? We are represented by many different students. One of them is Joel Morales, who's actually on the national SAVE steering committee. We spoke about that as he's had some opportunity for professional development as a sophomore and traveled after that. So it's a really cool thing. We also had our Pride students last week that recognized Red Ribbon Week. Pride students as peers rejoicing in a drug-free environment. They're actually looking at trying to change that name a little bit, but that is a national program, and they sponsored a lot of activities last week to recognize and be aware of the activities that are out there, but also the prevention methods that are part of that, and just being part of something, being together with something was really important to them. They sponsored a bunch of activities during lunch, which was a nice thing to have as well. We also, if you notice, we have some extracurriculars going on, which is an exciting time because we haven't had the opportunity to report on a lot of these things for a couple of years. So FBLA went to the state championships. That was virtual last year. This year it was in person, and 12 students were able to attend. We're excited that we have 5 of them that were in the top 10. We have 4 individuals that are going on that have qualified for nationals. We want to be able to read their name right out of the hand. Is 4th in the state. She's a future business leader, and she's a national qualifier. Benjamin Smith, top 10 in state public speaking. Peyton Sugar, 2nd in the state human resource management. She's also a national qualifier. Caitlin Powell's top 10 in state and client service. Hope Marjorie, top 10 in state help desk. So that is, again, a recognition of our students. Mr. Emma is our advisor of that program. Mr. Dexter also went down to Atlantic City and assisted with that as well. So we're very proud of those students. 12 students attended overall, and many of them placed, and they said it was just a fantastic opportunity. About 4,000 or so students from across the state were part of that conference down in Atlantic City, so a great thing to be part of as well. We also had prevention activity that Mr. Carroll talked a little bit more about with Chris Aaron. That was more about respect, respecting yourself, empathy, and wellness. That was very well received. Right now, as I speak, I'm actually looking at it on my computer. There's a virtual award ceremony for 2 of our students. Caitlin Paus again, in FBLA, right, state top 10. She's also the art educator of New Jersey Youth Award recipient for one of her artworks. And Rob Wilson also is on that same aspect of it, so they're doing a little bit of a virtual ceremony. It used to be held in person, but hopefully they get back to that. So again, showing that the variety of talents that our students have every single day. And thank you to our fine arts teachers for promoting that and getting them to the place where they can compete in those things. We had Teen Arts last year. That's also exciting because Teen Arts last year was virtual. So last week we had it. It was really nice. It was about 60 or so students that participated over at SEC. We're a part of a partnership with them. And that was a great opportunity for us to compete on different categories for some of the things that you see behind you. It could be crafts. It's also in the music world for singing, also in the dance world, also in theater, also in playing an instrument in small groups and large groups, and also in video editing as well. So a lot of ways they can participate. You probably have seen on social media some of our postings out about that. But the students were just happy to be at SECC for the day with their teachers, with other students, celebrating the arts. It was just great to see because that's been kind of hiatus for a couple years now. So it was a really nice event again for our students and also for our teachers that coordinated that. A couple upcoming events, we have a Garden State Quality presentation. We're just going to talk a little bit more about that. An anti-bullying presentation for our students on Wednesday. We have Footloose, right? You heard that before, right? Footloose coming to town, April 8th, 9th, and 10th, our spring musical. Our students are through the roof ecstatic for that great show that's going to happen. And it's 8th, 9th, and 10th, so mark your calendars if you haven't got the information already. We're looking forward to having a packed house, a full house, and the students are just absolutely ecstatic about that. Talking to them over the last course of the couple of days as we get closer and closer to Tech Week and all those things that happen. Last year we had to do the spring musical in June. I don't know if you remember that or not. We had to do it in June and it was no audience. So for them, again, talking about athletic aspect of it, extracurricular aspect of it, it's all part of an extension of the classroom. And for them to be able to work, and the work that they've put in is unbelievable. It's like top level athlete amount of work that they've put in. And to be able to perform in front of a full crowd, including their family and friends, is really a cool thing. We're also working with senior class. I gave you a little update about this last time, but April 29th, we're going to try to celebrate College and Career and Military Day. Every year in May, there's the acceptance day, usually around May 1st. It kind of falls in the middle of the beginning of the AP exam. So the seniors have said, hey, can we do April 29th, which is before the AP exams start? We're going to try to do some fun activities with the seniors to celebrate them. And we focus on celebrating not just their college decision, but the career decision, because it's just as important, and their military decisions as well, and make that a broad day. So we're looking to do that on April 29th. And then we're excited to have on the calendar again, and keeping things moving in the right direction, May 12th, our senior prom, which was postponed from last year as juniors, and May 19th, our junior prom as well. So those are really exciting things to look forward to. I just met with a bunch of seniors today to go over kind of some of the end of the year activities, and looking forward to an end of the year senior trip as well. So they're extremely excited about having some of those things on the calendar. Again, it looks like almost like a normal year for them. And we're working as much as we can with the advisors to try to get them as much as possible to celebrate the class. All right, a lot of information at once. Any questions about any of those things?
The state champion wrestlers, I don't know this to be true, but we have a female state champion and a male state champion. Is there any other school you're aware of that had?
That is a good question, Mr. Dunn. I have to look that up and probably talk to Mr. Gardner. He's the guru of all that. I'd be interested to see if there was. There might be, because there's some of the strong boys wrestling programs also have some strong, but I don't know for sure that there is. Because, I look at a small number, even, when you get to the boys, right, in terms of the aspect of it too.
Quite an accomplishment for a small school up in Sussex County.
Yeah.
You talked about the way they conduct themselves, right? And you mentioned the coaches, but it also says something about the school, right? When they conduct themselves that way and people see that. So that's important to know too.
Yeah, I would echo Mr. Klein and appreciate that, absolutely 100%. They're very proud of what they wear on the front of their shirts, as well as what they wear on the back of their shirts. And that shows, not just, in wrestling, but that's a true statement. I believe that that's a really important thing, because that goes a lot more longer than the state championship may. So thank you for that, absolutely.
You said the musical's April 8th, 9th, 10th?
Footloose, April, yes, April 8th, 9th, 10th. So it's Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, 2 o'clock show.
Okay.
So 7 o'clock, and 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And those are available online. I think the Ticket Peak is what we're using, and it works out pretty well. So you can go on there, choose your seats. It's a pretty advanced system, and do that as well. So easy to do, no paper. It's kind of like an
Long
Uber.
days for Mr. Kenny, just making X's on his
Yes, the days of looking at the chart. Yes, Mr. Ricardi had that too, where you look at the whole 700 seats in the auditorium and figure out who's going to sit where.
Respective to what you just said, Mr. Klein, I think it also reflects on the community in that I've been watching these young men wrestle since they were little boys, and the feeder program and the people who are there to teach them those things when they're young are just as impressive. And people who I've told them for years, I'm very pleased that you represent our children, my son as well. Because the way that some other people conduct themselves would be hard for me to hold my tongue. But the gentlemen that I've watched participate in those is reflective of our community.
Right, and that begins with volunteers.
Yep.
Right, and that's
Yep.
so.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions? Thank you for your time, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James Campbell presents to the board on matters related to curriculum and instruction.
Good evening, folks. Get our presentation going. So that may look like a typical picture. Mr. Talm, I just mentioned our SAVE students. That is not typical. Given the 2 years that we've just had, I just scanned through Twitter and I read that one caught my eye. Our students are far less restricted. They're mask optional. We can see their beautiful smiles, and fingers crossed, we're back. So it's very, very nice to see, and we're really proud of that. We're also very excited that our Board of Ed, that our Board of Ed is here, maskless and joyful. So good to see all of you in front of me and behind me. Last week we administered the graduation proficiency assessment to 200 of our juniors. Now, one might think that it's easy because the test was only for one grade. To have 210 students take an assessment while another 600 plus go through the normal curriculum is actually more challenging than testing the entire school. So I want to thank my administrative assistant, Miss Jessica Briggs, my fellow administrators, teachers, and most importantly, our students who were fabulous. So it was really a very successful test administration. We did a couple things that we're excited about that were a little bit special for the juniors. First, we brought them in and we gave them an extended 25 minutes for breakfast, and we served them a hot meal. I want to thank Ms. Kathy Campbell and the Mastio staff for making that happen. It may seem like a small thing, but the photo on the right is how our students left the cafeteria each day. Not a crumb or a wrapper could be found. And I know Mr. Talame and the rest of us are always working to foster and strengthen the culture of respect. And those little things mean a lot. So our students were great. Hats off to our health and phys ed department, because after the students had their hot breakfast, they broke off into 4 groups. They walked the campus inside and out in one group on a particular day. They did team building, cognitive fitness games up in the West Gym, and in the East Gym, they did a full body 20-minute exercise routine. Most of us are familiar with adolescents. They're not always overly eager to be told to exercise at 8 a.m. But our health and phys ed teachers brought their A game, brought the enthusiasm, and within about 5 or 10 minutes, they were smiling. And it was a really nice thing. Why did we do this? We know this from our own lives. We feel better when we exercise, but research also confirms that 20 minutes of brisk exercise lowers stress, and testing is stressful for many students, and it also improves cognitive function. So it was a great opportunity for the health and phys ed department to weave their curriculum into the broader curriculum and complement our testing. So I want to thank those 7 teachers in particular for their passion and commitment to what they do. We do have a bit more testing, but we will be testing less in several ways next year, which you'll hear about later throughout the spring and the summer. We are very sensitive to the amount of testing, and we do look for ways to reduce it. However, many of these tests are required by the state. Our freshmen will test in math and English in May, and our juniors have a science test that is also required. Thankfully, our sophomores and our seniors won't test at all this year, which makes them relatively happy. So we have a bit more testing coming up. And one of the things that we were particularly hampered by during COVID was having a common experience, having an assembly. And when all of the students and all of the teachers have the same experience, it builds a language of shared experiences. So the 3 assemblies that we had, one of them was last month. I mentioned we had a renowned documentarian come in and discuss 9/11 memorials. Last Wednesday, we had a prevention assembly. If you, I believe on Netflix, his ESPN 30 for 30 is available if you want to see a little bit about Chris Herron and his powerful story, which was very well received by our students. And this coming Wednesday, all staff and students will have an anti-bullying assembly where they talk about inclusion, anti-bullying, cultural competency, and Garden State Equality has been here before. They presented. They were one of the most well-received groups that have come and presented. So we are excited about that. And I just want to say, I believe he's on the agenda. 7 years ago, I began a journey into administration with someone who will be a lifelong friend. I think he's had such a positive impact on the staff and the students at High Point. So we very much love Aldo Diodino, and we're so excited for him to be moving on to a new chapter of his career. But he's probably watching at home right now, so I thought I'd embarrass him with it. Aldo, we love you. And last, it's spring. The birds are chirping, the sun is out. And Mr. Talman just highlighted it. We have 3 months to go. We have proms, we have dances, we have AP testing, and we look forward to really a great, after what we've been through, a wonderful 3 months. So, that's it. Any questions? Good, thanks, folks.
Thank you. That was the last of our presentations. There is no other business, so let's get to action items. First is curriculum, instruction, and technology.
So just noting the faculty attendance rate, student attendance rate, and the suspension report, items 1, 2, and 3. So I'm looking to move items 4 through 7 at the same time. And number 4 is to approve the HID report as attached. Number 5, the field trips as attached. PD activities for number 6, and the revised calendar, which changes the last day to June 20th due to emergency closings. And that was a minor change, I believe, from last time. So I'm making a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay.
Roll call.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Miss Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Truman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn.
Yes. Next, we have personnel action items, Mrs. Sedona.
Okay, I'm gonna move items 1 through 3. Number 1 is the retirement of Joan Smith. Number 2 is the retirement of Carolyn Acker. And number 3 is the retirement of Andrew Murray. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
All three of whom have had an impact on High Point. Ms. Smith does a phenomenal job with a very specific group of kids who she enriches their lives and I believe demonstrates and inspires the families to know that their children, when they come here, are loved, and she does a phenomenal job with our most important at-risk kids, and she's exceptional at it, so she will be missed. Ms. Acker, who started our Holocaust, literature of the Holocaust class, been here a while and has, again, made her mark on High Point. And Mr. Murray, who's also been here for quite some time as a school psychologist. We wish all three of them nothing but the best. Congratulations.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
I'm gonna move items 4 and 5. Number 4 is the recommendation for the approval of the extending the leave of absence for employee 1066 as listed. And number 5 is the approval of Lena Stories, Teresa Roman, and Ryan Woolley as the after-school detention proctors. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
And then number 6, as a closure to all the negotiations and everything, to certify the to approve the salaries of the certified and non-certified staff members as listed. Making motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'd like to move items 7 through 9. Number 7 is the approval of Dave Fetzer as a second shift custodian. Number 8 is the approval of Brooke Martin as the teacher of technology education. And number 9 is accepting the retirement of Janice Ryerson. Making motion, seeking a second. Second. Any discussion?
Just to speak briefly about Ms. Ryerson's had a long career in education as a paraprofessional and has been nothing but a benefit to to the children to whom she's been tasked for many years, and is a professional and loves kids, and she will be missed.
Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
And I'd like to move 10 through 14. Number 10 is approval of the extended medical leave for employee 809. Number 11 is to rescind the retirement notification of Michael Langdon. What's the that right? Number 12 is to accept the resignation as listed and to approve the 6th period assignments as listed. That's number 14. And number 14 is to approve the interim business administrator. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
And then item number 15, I'd like to move to accept, make a motion to accept the resignation of Aldo Biadino. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to say, this breaks my heart. And I hope Mr. Giardino can enjoy his veggie sticks at his new place. I will miss them.
Okay, anything else?
I'd like to wish Mr. Giardino well, and I hope his commute is shortened appropriately.
Okay, roll call,
That's good.
please.
All right. Ms. Ireland,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
and Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'd like to move items 16 to 18. Number 16 is the approval of James Minkowitz as listed. Number 17 is the approval of Diane Tassi as substitute teacher. Number 18 is approval of Ms. Margaret Meyer to return to her tenured position of full-time guidance counselor for the 2022-2023 school year. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we're pleased to be able to invite
Ms. Meyer.
Ms. Meyer back.
Yeah, she was certainly an asset, and we were pleased to be able to do so.
Your motion, so roll call please,
All right.
that's it.
Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Ireland,
I think I should abstain from voting for number 16 on the basis that I'm good friends with the candidate.
okay,
Well, his wife is a co-worker of mine for 20+ years. So I'm just gonna,
all right, Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna make a motion for number 19 and through 21. Number 19, we accept with regret the retirement notification of Alan Chuparino, I'm sorry.
Good.
Oh, good. Number 20 is to approve James Minkowitz as the assistant to the interim business administrator. And the addenda, on the addenda, number 21, is to approve the 6-period assignment effective March 21st until such time as a permanent employee is released back to work. Making a motion, seeking a second. Second. Any discussion?
Just want to congratulate Al Ciparino, who's been with us for a while in that position, to the degree where I think he first started when I was assistant principal. So he's been around a while, and he's been an asset, and he'll be missed, and we wish him nothing but the best in his retirement.
Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Ireland,
abstain from number 20, but yes to the others.
all right. Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Abstain from 21, but yes to the others.
abstaining from 21?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
and Mr. Dunn.
Yes. That's it for personnel, right? So extracurricular, Mr. Arnold.
Sure, my job's a little busy. I will move items 1 through 4. Item 1, it is recommended that the board accept the resignation of Kevin Fenlon as girls varsity soccer coach effective immediately. Item 2, it is recommended that the board approve the following revised extracurricular appointments for the 2021-2022 school year as attached. Number 3, it is recommended that the board accept the resignation of Jacqueline Bambera as head swim coach effective immediately. And item number 4, it is recommended that the board acknowledge and approve High Point hosting a charity fundraiser on April 29th, with High Point softball taking on Newton softball and High Point baseball taking on Kittatinny baseball. Both games will be at 4 p.m. and all proceeds will benefit the National Autism Association, National Autism Society of America, and/or SCARC. Make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Number one, the resignation of Kevin Fenlon. So some of you know I have some involvement in youth soccer. That may be an understatement. My wife. It's a little ironic that I get to vote on a resignation from Mr. Fenlon. He preceded me as a president of the High Point Soccer Club and followed his footsteps there. He has trained at various points in my daughter's life, two of my three daughters, both at the youth level, and fortunately my youngest got to play for him, and this is actually his second stint as the girls varsity soccer coach. He took a brief period where he became the varsity boys soccer coach for his own children, but I'm glad he returned because he has an innate ability to connect with individuals that, for any of us that have attempted to coach, we know how difficult that is. And I personally have sort of given up on the coaching and gone to officiating where I don't get in as much trouble. But there, like I said, an innate ability this man has, and he has certainly affected many students' lives, both on and off the field. And soccer is a unique game in that you, as a coach, you really only influence players off the field. Once the game starts, they have to make their own decisions. So his influence off the field is really what matters, and his ability to inspire greatness in a number of players in both of his stints in that position, I think are wonderful assets that we have enjoyed here at High Point. So thank you, Mr. Fenlon, and congratulations on your retirement, I guess, from the soccer coaching. That's all I have.
Okay, roll call please.
All right, Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Ireland,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dona,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
and Mr. Dunn.
Yes. That's it for extracurriculars, so we're back to Mrs. Tadona for policy.
I'm gonna move items 1 and 2. Some of these are first readings and some of them are revised policies, but they're all state mandated. So they have to do with additional compensation, with student assessment, anti-hazing, student surveys, prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions, and high school graduation, and bias crimes and bias-related acts, and administrative and school surveys. Making motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to give a shout out. I have asked for the M to be noted next to the policies that are mandated, so both us and the public can tell which ones are mandated and which ones are not, and so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Something that
Nice.
one would have assumed I would have thought about, or we would have thought about long ago, so thank you very much. It's better that way.
Okay, roll call
You
please.
can. Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Ireland,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dona,
Yes.
Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
and Mr. Dunn.
Yes. It doesn't look like we have any negotiation action items, nor do we have any building and grounds action items, but I'll give Mr. Klein an opportunity to make any comments
Yeah,
there.
I'd just like to comment on a couple things. So we discussed something that I had discussed in last year about presentation of the school. And it, driving in and dropping my son off or my daughter off to school and realizing that the entryway is less than desirable from my standpoint. So we've talked about it in the past and it kind of, we've breezed over it, but now the discussion has arose that they're possibly gonna look into maybe just looking at pieces of that rather than looking at the whole thing and maybe see if it's something that could be afforded. That's one item. The other item is there was an email that I was copied in from one of the members of the Wantage Township Committee in regards to something we talked about last year and something that we separated, the school separated from, was the shared service of taking care of the fields at Brooks, or at Woodbourne Park. And that happened basically because when the actual monies were looked at, it was actually costing the school about $20,000 to do that shared service. And I mean, as a business, that's not sharing, it's costing us money. So my feeling was that the email that was sent initially was done incorrectly, and that was by, at this point in the meeting, a former employee. So, but now discussing that same situation, I've found out that we have one person on staff that's licensed to do that, and there is not enough time in the week in order to do those fields as well. So we have to continue down the same road that we were on last year. So it was, listen, it was a good thing that we found that out, because over the years, the cost of that was being incurred by the school. From a business standpoint, you can't do that.
Especially when we're losing.
Right.
So this is something that's ongoing, so I want to be careful not to compromise negotiations about it, but I do think it's something that, I'm not sure which committee it may fall under, Buildings and Grounds, but it is something we should continue to discuss and continue to engage. If there is not an opportunity, it still exists to maintain something there.
I agree.
There is a mutual benefit.
I'm on finance as well, and we discussed it in both of those meetings. So it's, that's where we stand, the school stands at this point.
Anything else in Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Klein?
That's it.
That's right. All right. I'll take the finance items. I'll move items 1 through 5 initially. Item 1 is a recommendation to accept the report of the board secretary business administrator for February 2022. Item 2 is a recommendation to accept the report of the treasurer for the month of February 2022. Item 3 is a recommendation to approve the reports of transfers and minimum expense transfer report for the month of February 2022. Item 4 is a recommendation to approve for payment the attached schedule of audited bills dated March 21st, 2022. And item 5 is a recommendation to accept the adult education agency account, athletic account, cafeteria account, principals petty cash account, scholarship account, school store account, and student activities account for the month of February 2022. I make the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on 1 through 5? None? Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Jonah?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn.
Yes. I will move items 6 through 8 together. Item 6 is a recommendation that the board accepts, approves, and places on file the comprehensive annual financial report, otherwise known as the CAPRA audit, for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. And I'll read that second sentence. The comprehensive annual financial report in the financial section stated there were no corrective recommendations. Item 7 is a recommendation to approve the substitute custodian rate be increased to $18 per hour effective March 22nd, 2022. And item 8 is a recommendation to gratefully accept the donation of 2 Dunkin' Donuts gift cards in the amount of $25 from David and Jill Imhoff to be used by Pride. I'll make that motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on 6 through 8? Seeing none?
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Jonah?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn.
Yes. I will move item 9 independently. Item 9 is a resolution, be it resolved that the board approves the adoption of the tentative school budget for the 2022-2023 school year as follows. The first section is related to travel and related expense reimbursement for 2022-2023, whereas the High Point Regional High School Board of Education recognizes school staff and board members will incur travel expenses related to and within the scope of their current responsibilities for travel that promotes the delivery of instruction or furthers the efficient operation of the school district, and whereas NJAC as listed requires board members to receive approval for these expenses by a majority of the full voting membership of the board and staff members to receive prior approval of these expenses by the superintendent of schools and a majority of the full voting membership of the board, and whereas the High Point Regional High School Board of Education may establish for regular district business travel only an annual school year threshold of $1,500 per staff member, where prior board approval shall not be required unless this annual threshold for a staff member is exceeded in a given school year, and whereas travel and related expenses not in compliance with NJAC statute as listed be deemed by the High Point Regional High School Board of Education to be necessary and unavoidable as noted on the approved High Point Regional High School Board of Education out-of-district travel and reimbursement forms. Now, therefore be it resolved, the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves all travel not in compliance with NJAC statute as listed as being necessary and unavoidable as noted on the approved High Point Regional High School Board of Education out-of-district travel and reimbursement forms, and be it further resolved, the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves travel and related expense reimbursements in accordance with NJAC statute as listed to a maximum expenditure of $75,000 for all staff and board members. Now, the adoption of the budget for 2022-2023. Be it resolved that the budget be approved for the 2022-2023 school year using the 2022-2023 state aid figures, and the secretary to the High Point Regional High School Board of Education be authorized to submit the following budget to the Executive County Superintendent of Schools. And I'll just briefly read through this table. Total expenditures of the general fund are $22,696,098. Actually, I'll read the total, sorry. The total column for the total expenditures is $23,406,381, less anticipated revenues of $6,163,953, which leaves taxes to be raised of $17,242,428. Be it resolved that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves the levy of general fund taxes for the 2022-23 school budget to be $17,242,428. The 2022-23 tax levy is inclusive of bank cap in the amount of $0. The 2022-23 state aid has been reduced by $584,563. This budget addresses health and safety issues related to facility and capital projects and student-centered items and program integrity, and to advertise said budget in the New Jersey Herald in accordance with the forms suggested by the State Department of Education and according to law. I make a motion on item 9 and seeking a second. Any discussion? Any discussion on item 9?
I just kind of want to note something that I brought up in the finance is that more and more, because of the state aid cuts, that the percentage that is expected from the local community has increased significantly over the past couple of years, and that our budget, overall budget, is decreasing.
It is.
But we still need to raise the taxes because the state is not providing as much. So I think I calculated just roughly around 77% of the funds have to come from the local community because the state has made up their formula and has reduced what we're having. So, I just want to reiterate that the increases in taxes are really a reduction in the overall budget, and it's the expectation of the state that we are local community is more responsible for the school expenditures. If I misspoke, Andy, please correct.
Mr. Ripley, what's the approximate amount of money that's been removed in the last
Approximately $4 million.
5 years? About $4 million.
Yes.
Thank you.
Approximately.
And it was supposed to be capped, correct?
It was originally communicated that it would be 2.7 million over a 7, which ultimately ended up being over an 8-year period. That number was reached in year 3 or 4. We still have 2 more years left of the original 7 years, of which they have been reducing a line item called equalization aid, where High Point formerly received over $6 million a year in equalization aid. We are now down to 1.9 million, and I anticipate that I think that the board and the community should be aware that that 1.9 million may be 0 at the end. So it is local communities in Sussex County. This is an acute hardship, and what it is doing to education, and I understand that people under the taxes, and it is being borne by the taxpayers. It is not, however, the will of the board or the administration to do this. It is essentially redistribution of the tax dollars to other areas of the state. And the efficacy of which is certainly debatable, and I could, in a different forum, discuss it more thoroughly. But it is, the school districts in our community, in Sussex County, are significantly impacted.
The governor made a budget presentation on the 7th or the 8th, is it?
Yeah, 7:30.
Which, and please, no one take this as any type of a political statement. This is purely factual. The budget presentation announced that there would be, and I don't recall the figure, a significantly larger amount of money put into the budget towards educational, basically state aid for schools, statewide. And I don't know if it was tens of millions or hundreds of millions. It was a large amount of additional dollars, which I'm sure made some school districts very happy. We here are fortunate that the number was left at $584,000 of cuts, because there was anticipation that that could be a larger cut for us. So just because, you know, there's a headline in the newspaper about more money being given to schools in the state budget, we're unique. We're not so unique, because we share the same pain as a number of other schools in our county and even a couple surrounding counties. But I think we were fortunate that that number was as low as it is. It could have been much worse. So, you know,
It's sad that we have to look at it that way,
Yeah.
but it's the reality of it.
I appreciate the reference to the fact that the spending has been reduced. And I think that gets lost in the fact that the taxes go up and people only see that, and I understand that completely. But we have continued to reduce the budget irrespective of the tax levy, for which we have limited, if any, control. So thank you.
so I make this statement, you know, I've made it in the past, and I guess, you know, for consistency, I'll make the same statement, that I consider the vote of a board member on a budget to be one of the most important votes that you get to make during the course of the year. Maybe the only other one that rises to that level is the selection or appointment of a superintendent, which fortunately we've not had to deal with. But the budget is something where we have a lot of weight on our shoulders. But for most of us, we've done a significant amount of homework to look into this, and we may understand things that certainly a general member of the public isn't privy to. So when we make these decisions, they're informed decisions. They're decisions that are made based upon as much analysis as we're able to put together and rely upon a lot of work that's done by our board secretary, business administrator, and Dr. Ripley as a superintendent in preparing of the budget. So I don't take it lightly. It's again, a weighty vote, and I hope that you all feel likewise. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody in a particular direction, but enough pontificating.
Can I say one more thing? So one of the main reasons I ran for this position was because of the budget. Now, I'll be honest with you, it was because of the year that there was a 14% increase. But as I sit here and I am on the committee and I look at the expenditures and the money that's being taken away, I now have a full understanding of what's happening and why we head in this 77% climb, right? So there's a document that we've all seen which shows line items for schools throughout the state and shows where the money goes or where the money is being removed from. Now, that's a public document, right?
Yes.
That is something that was very eye-opening for me to realize that there are school systems that are trying their best to spend all the money they're given, and they can't. But yet here, the money continues to be pulled away. So by sitting here, I was able to educate myself into that with the help of everyone else here. But that's really important for people to do their own due diligence to see why we are here in this position.
Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll proceed to a vote, please.
All right. Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
That's okay. Mr. Confor?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunn?
Yes. Final item in finance, 10. Be it resolved that the board approves and authorizes the execution of the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School sending in the following districts and related information, I believe, as listed. I'll make that motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Confor?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
And Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Thank you.
Turn it over to Mr. Caraza for our transportation action items.
I'm gonna move 1 through 6 together. Number 1 recommends the approval and authorization of a joint transportation agreement for the current school year as listed. Number 2, recommended approve and authorize a joint transportation agreement for the current school year as listed. Number 3, request to approve and authorize the joint transportation agreement for the current school year as listed. Number 4 is a recommendation to approve and authorize the quoted contract for school-related activity trips for the current school year as listed. Sorry, that was number 4.
Yeah.
Number 5 is a recommendation to approve and authorize a joint transportation agreement for the current school year as listed. Number 6 is a recommendation to approve and authorize a quoted contract for school-related activities for the current school year as listed. I believe that is it. Yes. I make a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
But
Roll call.
just-
Oh, sorry.
Just reiterate too that, June does a tremendous job with transportation, but our transportation costs keep going up. As do special ed costs keep going up, and we're largest district in the state.
As far as square miles, yes.
Yes, so, we have to use that transportation a lot, and so that truly affects us as well. Just wanted to make that little note, with all these passings that we always have with the transportation.
And we don't have much choice of,
Oh, there's no choice, yeah.
there's no choice to choose, there's no.
And I'll also mention, so in the state aid that we get, there are there's an amount for transportation, and that number has not changed, even though costs have risen. The amount, so in effect, we're also losing state aid relative to our costs.
It's about a quarter of the amount of transportation costs, the aid, which I appreciate. I'm not making value judgments, I'm just giving context.
There's no cost of living adjustment in any of those figures, if you will, for what we get in aid for transportation.
And June is the guru in the background that makes all this happen. Because without her, it would.
Yeah, she's the best. And she appreciates the support from the board and acknowledges it. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes. And since we have no long-term planning or legal action items, we also have no correspondence. Under miscellaneous, we have the one standing item about our school board mandated training. Please contact the board office if you need to have anything scheduled. I think we're caught up on that, from what I remember.
I need to be registered.
So with that, we will open for public comments for our second public comment session. Same rules apply. Please state your name and address. We will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please be mindful that your comments are being recorded. So anyone that would like to make public comments in person, please, you may have the podium here, or anyone virtually who would like to make a comment, we'll handle you second. You can raise your virtual hand whenever, and we can recognize you. Great.
Hi. Good evening. Hi. Jada Bartz, 34 Union Mill Avenue. Hello. Interesting hearing the conversation tonight, and it's glad to see everybody in here without a mask on their face. Thank you, because, you know, I can't breathe with one on. That being said, I know I brought to you some information, and Mr. Ripley and Mr. Dunn, I know I gave you this information, and I hope that you actually really read through that. And now there's been more information coming out. So right now where I'm at, I have a couple other things that I want to go over besides just that. And so I know I brought you the dossier, and some of the activities, I don't know if they're still happening, like the test to stay or any of that, because those tests were obsolete by December 31st because they are not legal anymore. That being said, my issue is that there is stuff going on social media right now, and I am really, really disturbed to find out and hear that this is going on in the high school. I would like to know 2 questions. I have 2 questions. Is there a transgender bathroom in this high school? And is it for a fact that we had a female changing in the boys' locker room? I'd like to know if that's true, because my grandson's going to come to this school next year, and I will not have this type of behavior. This is not good. Has anybody looked up MK Ultra? I brought you a dossier to read. I'd like for some of you to look up MK Ultra. It's been going on since, I hate to say it, but since the war from the 1940s and the Holocaust and the Nazis. This is absolutely been going on, and it is being infiltrated in our schools. I don't like the look that I'm getting, but look it up, go down the rabbit hole like I've done, okay? This is being infiltrated in our schools. So I would like to have those 2 questions answered. If we have a transgender bathroom in this school, and if you're allowing girls to change in the boys' locker room.
So ma'am,
Thank
this is
you.
your opportunity to make comments,
I-
we're
I-
not
I-
obligated to answer in any, I know you're
I
asking for.
asked in the beginning when I could speak, and I waited,
and I listened to everything, and now I'm just trying to speak out and ask you 2 questions, if you could answer those 2 questions. Is that happening in the school?
What happens in the school is directed by the state governor, the legislators. As agents of the state, we fulfill the laws of this state.
But you're not answering my question. Do you have a transgender bathroom in the school? I asked a question, can you answer yes or no?
I'm trying to answer it, so I use the specific terminology that is appropriate.
But that's not a yes or no.
Can I just ask, Mr. Talamy, what do we refer to, what is that bathroom referred to as?
So
Under state guidelines, we call it gender neutral bathroom.
right, so you are
We
infiltrating
are in full compliance
transgender in the
with
school.
the state law, yes.
So is that from the ESSER funding? The ESSER funding, the ESSER monies from the COVID monies, the ESSER monies.
It
Is
doesn't.
that where that's coming from, that you're doing stuff in your school?
We didn't need to create any extra facilities.
Because my taxpayer dollars do not go for
Ma'am, I'm
transgender.
gonna say again, you have an opportunity to make comments to the board in public, which we are allowing, and we're being very
So
respectful.
can I ask the
It's
second?
not a back and forth session where
No,
you
the
ask
second question
questions and
I
you're entitled
asked
to
about,
answers.
did you allow a girl to change in a boys' locker room?
Well, I believe that is a difficult question to ask because defining terms would be required for me to answer that. And you will perceive that as evasiveness, when in reality it is in compliance with the state law. As an agent of the state, we will apply the rules and the
We have
laws of the state.
minors, they're minors, this is pedophilia, I'm sorry, but this is not what we teach minors for schools. They're underage, they can't even vote, and we're teaching them.
Thank you for your comments, I believe your time has expired. Do we happen to have anybody online that would like to make a public comment? No one? Doesn't look like we have any other further public comments. Can I have a motion to close the second public comment session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, okay, I believe we have non-committee board member reports or comments, if anybody is so inclined.
Yeah, I would like to take a moment to thank Fran. Because in the turmoil of what is a business office in general, right? There's a lot of ups and downs, and in this, we're kind of in a transition stage, and we've been here before, and I'm sure we'll be here again, and she is the constant, and we appreciate all of your hard work, and the rest of the business office as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Fran, Dawn.
And Dawn.
And Scott.
And Tess. So thank you all for your hard work.
And
Bill.
yeah. Any other non-committee board member reports or comments? Not just one item, again, our standing item under other business, but it doesn't look like we have anything in that, so I'm gonna go through it. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Okay.